Don't worry, that sense of deja vu you are getting is intentional. Yes, I have already beaten the original 2006 release of Oblivion with only my fists, but, and this is no word of a lie, the moment the remaster was released, I began getting waves upon waves of comments and messages of people asking me to essentially redo the challenge in the remaster. Probably because they changed up a bit how hand-to-hand and just general combat works. I mean, no complaints on my end, I was planning on playing Oblivion anyway, so this is just two birds with one stone. I do have another Oblivion remaster run in the works, and it's one I mentioned in the past that should the rumours and leaks about the remaster have turned out to be true, I would do sooner rather than later. So expect that out hopefully in a couple of weeks. Right, as for the rules, well, it's as straightforward as it sounds. I can only attack with my fists, no magic or weapons of any sort. Also, I decided to forego the Bands of Quang Lao this time around, you know, those super powerful hand armor that buffs your hand to hand by 20 points, and you can acquire within mere seconds after leaving the tutorial. Yeah, no. Did that last time, so not today. I'm hoping this can be more different than last time, and from what I have played of this and messed around with the changes in my free time, I think it might be. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin. First off, character creation, and immediately we see a difference between this version and the original. That being, you can choose your origin, and there is 2 for each race. They exist to give different bonuses to certain skills and attributes for your character. As we are going for a fist-based build, Khajiit makes the most sense just for an extra oomph early game. I also go with the origin that gives me some extra strength and agility. Unarmed damage is solely dependent on the strength attribute this time around rather than how much stamina you have. I'm personally indifferent to this change if you're curious. I mess around with the customization a little bit, but I don't spend too much time here as I primarily play in the first person anyway.
What?
Many things may look different, but good old Mr. Racism brings us right back to 2006. The Emperor and his entourage arrive, and he is looking older than ever. I mean, I get it, he is meant to be pushing 90, and the original looked late 60s at most. But, good God, now he looks like a slight breeze is going to break him in two. Tagging along, or more accurately, rushing ahead, and I can be the first one to encounter the Mythic Dawn. Sadly, the old glitch that lets you talk to this one as he spawns in no longer works, so no words of wisdom this time around. That said, this is our first taste of combat, so how is it? I mean, the easiest way to describe it is it's basically been brought more in line with Skyrim. While I do have fond memories of the original, I will say it feels nice that when you hit someone, there is some actual feedback now in how they react, as opposed to before where it felt like everybody was slapping each other with rubber bats. Also, when you're attacking, it's not just never-ending swings anymore, but a clear set of combos. Your bare fists get a 4-hit combo, which is basically 4 normal punches followed by an uppercut with your right hand. I'll go a bit more into the combat once we face some more imposing enemies, cause as it stands, you don't get to mess around with it all that much here, as the blades make short work of the assassins, meaning all that we are left with is the goblins and rats, which don't have much health to begin with. During my escape, I found 6 cheese wheels. Not sure why I'm mentioning that, but past me wrote it down in the notes, so I guess he thought it was important. I have some fun wheeling on the last of the goblins before meeting back up with the Emperor and the boys. It's star sign time, and yes, warrior would more than likely make the most sense as it'll let me start with more strength, therefore I'll have stronger punches early on. But I actually wanted to go with the Lord sign. It's for 2 reasons. First off, this sign has been completely revamped from how it was in the original. Back then, it gave you a lesser power in the form of a rather effective early to mid game healing spell. The trade-off, however, was that you would have a permanent 25% weakness to fire. In this remaster, however, the healing spell and debuff are gone, and now the sign just gives you a base armor rating of 15 and increases magic resistance by 15%. As the armor rating caps out at 85 in Oblivion, being able to have it at 15 before even getting any armor is frankly insane. Plus, considering hand-to-hand combat tends to take a little longer than fighting with weapons, and the fact I won't be able to use a shield, this just seemed like a no-brainer for a little added cushion in the defense department. As for the second reason I took this sign, I simply think it's funny picking the Lord sign because the Emperor's follow-up comment makes it sound like your character derives his power from his Christian faith.
Your stars are not mine. Today the Lord shall prove a faithful patron in your quest for glory.
Some more fighting, some more dying, by which I mean the Emperor himself. On the bright side, they added a little unique animation here for his death, so that's neat. Boris is saddened by the news, but all that upsets me right now is that he thinks I'm some sort of pilgrim. And, I mean, just... no. As he is such a bad judge of character, I just make my own class. Nothing out of the ordinary, hand to hand, because duh, and then just some added stuff like light armor and sneak to help supplement my build. As for the other major skills I chose, well, that was for their apprentice level perks. Another thing that's been changed this time around was the shifting of some of the journeyman and apprentice perks. For example, acrobatics now gives you access to the dodge at 25 as opposed to 50. And the real big one is Armorer now lets you fix magical gear at Apprentice and not Journeyman. That one is so good, I will not be surprised if every build I make in the remaster from here on out has Armorer as one of the major skills. I assign a fitting name for my class. Boris is genuinely shocked how wrong he was. I see Glenroy and the Mythic Dawn had some fun, and then I fist some more goblins before finally leaving the sewers. I then get my first taste of people murder on the nearby bandits, and after enjoying that so much, I venture down into the nearby Iliad ruins to continue punching to my heart's content. Level 1 still, so most of them go down in less than 4 swings, especially if I'm tossing power attacks into the mix. My main reason for coming here is any magical loot I can scrounge up, as well as the Wilked and Singular Varla stones. They fetch a high price at most merchants, so that's just money that can be spent on hand-to-hand skills somewhere down the line. Ironically, one of the items I found is a set of robes with a minor shield enchantment on it, so it's technically better than what I currently have, so I'm not exactly sure I wish to part with it just so soon. Once I'm finished grave robbing the ancient elves, I make my way to the Warnet Inn, just outside the Imperial City, as Rowley, the world's worst secret Sithis worshipper, will buy things from you for up to 2,000 gold, and will take just about anything, making him a great place to offload most of my valuables. When I'm done, I'm up to 1,500 gold, so I take that over to Rakanar and Swedenhall to get 3 levels in hand-to-hand before being broke once again. With not much else on my mind other than being able to hit harder and earn money, the next logical step was tackling the arena in its entirety. This also let me touch on the hand-to-hand combat a little bit more, like I mentioned before. So the biggest change to the remaster in combat is that enemies can no longer fall over or crumple like in the original once you drain them of all their fatigue. Something that tended to happen a lot if you were running an effective unarmed build, as punching drains both health and fatigue from whoever you hit. Now, you can still cause people to crumple, but it only happens if you drain their fatigue with a spell. You will see this in action later. This is a double-edged sword, as while it means a Master of Unarmed can no longer just dominate one-on-one fights by leaving their opponent motionless on the floor while they use them like a punching bag, it also means that when you get swarmed now, that you also will not be getting ragdolled like crazy or unable to move. That's not to say there is no replacement for this system, mind you. Now when you drain someone's fatigue, they will do this little animation where they recoil back and are unable to attack you or defend for a few seconds, allowing you to effectively wail on them for some free damage. You can even tell when an enemy is low on fatigue now, as it is shown by a white highlight around their health bar, which from my experience tends to mean they are about 1 power attack away from losing all of their fatigue. Once they recover from the recoil, and this goes for both you and them as the same thing happens to you should you lose all your fatigue, is that rather than your fatigue remain empty and slowly refill over time how it used to, you will instead get a small amount of it restored immediately, typically about a quarter of your max. If I was to compare it to anything, and this is just the very first thing that came to my mind, it is quite similar to how getting your stamina broken in Dark Souls worked. Like, if you tried to block an attack with low stamina in that game, the attack would break your guard, leaving you defenseless for a few seconds while your stamina quickly refilled itself. All in all, the system is different, but I wouldn't call it bad. It just takes a little getting used to after nearly 20 years of muscle memory is all. Come to think of it, that's kind of how I describe most of the changes in the remaster. Except the controls, I changed those right back to the defaults almost immediately. Having crouch on B just felt wrong. While on the topic of the unarmed combat and my time in the arena, after a few matches I managed to reach Journeyman in hand-to-hand, which now means every power attack has a chance to disarm my opponents. This is where the hand-to-hand fighting starts to get pretty fun in my eyes. It also makes what was already a rather comfortable jaunt through the arena an absolute breeze, as there seems to be a bug at the moment where once you disarm someone in the arena, they cannot pick their weapons back up. I assume it's got something to do with the fact that you can't loot your opponent, so their weapons are unobtainable, and that is somehow not allowing the AI to pick their own weapons back up. Again, I'm not really complaining. In fact, it's what made the handicap match against the twins and the Argonian prisoners manageable due to my low endurance. Speaking of, I leveled up a few times throughout this. As you just get 12 points to assign now per level, I just split them evenly among strength, willpower, and endurance. Endurance, as I mentioned, for more health, and strength is obvious for more damage. Willpower is simply for more fatigue. In the original, it was vital for a decent unarmed build, as the more fatigue you had, the harder you hit. Now that isn't the case, so I just want it so I can land more power attacks before getting exhausted. The final fight with the L Team champion began as a bit of a slog, as I kept trying to fight them all myself. With low health and no healing supplies, that led to me gorging on the arena's sand a few more times than I care to admit. In the end, it's always the simplest solution which provides the best results. I just focus on taking down the ranged fighters, and once they're out of the picture, I just disarm the champion. Once that's done, I can stand my ground as her punches aren't all that powerful, and let Porkchop the boar lay on the damage. For whatever reason, they never try to fight back against Porkchop, so as long as I can tank the hits, our little pot-bellied friend can come out on top. Now all that leaves is the Grey Prince. This time around, I refused to retrieve his father's journal, as I wanted a fair fight, and was genuinely curious how that would go. He normally hits rather hard, so I was ready for a true test of my skills.
At long last, my thirst for battle can be satiated. Long have I waited for such a worthy challenge. I will savor this. And if this conflict brings about the end of my life, I will savor it all the more.
Well, that's rather unfortunate. No clue what happened here. For the record, this is the first time I've seen this glitch. Despite never getting the journal, he just stood there and wouldn't move, only occasionally defending himself if I got too close. So with that, I put him out of his misery and can claim my light raiment of valor as my prize for being the new Arena Grand Champion. That also means a certain someone is going to be tagging along for a while too. I spend all my arena winnings on more punching prowess, to which I then go and test it out in some nearby bandits to great effect. It's also around here where it occurred to me there are no witnesses, so I murdered the adoring fan and then promptly tried to hide his body in the ocean. You know, if I hadn't killed all the mud crabs, I probably could have banked on them getting rid of his body Amelia Earhart style. Regardless, in doing so, I am now a prime candidate for the Dark Brotherhood, so I rest in the nearby bedroll, level up, and meet Lucian. Two things, I am joining them this time, as after the gifts video wasn't able to finish the dead drop contracts, I've been itching to tackle the Dark Brotherhood questline in a video. Plus it's a fan favourite, and people have been asking for a while for me to have somebody who runs through it. Secondly, I backed up after getting out of the bed and completely avoided Lucian, who typically starts speaking with you immediately upon waking up. I then noticed he began following me, seemingly indefinitely, at a speed not too dissimilar from another one of Wes Johnson's characters. I suppose that means this video is now on the cards and an inevitability. As per usual, I am tasked with killing per defenceless Rufio at the Inn of Ill Omen. Rather than fast travel to somewhere nearby, I decided to just run from my current location. It didn't take as long as I thought. The new sprint feature means even in the early stages I've got a somewhat decent running speed. A rather uneventful trip too. Ran into the highwayman on the bridge as to be expected, but he didn't put up much of a fight, nor did the marauders waiting on the other side. Something I did notice though was just how remarkably brittle the Raiment of Valor was. It was basically completely broken after both encounters. Probably a side effect of getting it so early on. Oh well. Once I make it to the inn, I catch Rufio sleeping, and after tickling his lower spinal column, I am once more greeted by LeChance, who adopts me into his family in Shadenhall. Before becoming a full-time assassin though, I helped out this fellow Khajiit with her woes. Turns out an ogre stole a basket of potatoes from her, and she needs somebody to get them back. Considering I am Northern Irish, there is no greater crime than stealing an honest folk's potatoes. To that end, I beat the ogre until my knuckles turn red and he stops breathing. I then return the basket of high quality goods, and for my services, I'm rewarded 2 slices of potato bread. Excellent, one step closer to making the ultimate fry. Enough lollygagging, it's off to the sanctuary to get my new clothes and start my life as an assassin. I go ahead and equip the shrouded armor right away, not just because it provides more protection than the raiment, but out of everything, I think this got one of the best glow-ups in the remaster. The little added bits of red really make it pop to me. The first contract is to kill Captain Gaston Tussaud. I sneak onto his ship via the nearby box, got to channel my inner Salt Snake of course, and then due to not having any restrictions, I just start boxing his crew in the lower quarters. I am rather limited in my approach after all. Starting with sneak as one of my majors does allow my unarmed attacks to hit a little harder than if I was just a novice, but as of right now, they aren't exactly one-hit kills from stealth. No one's got a boat like Gaston, no one's as one note like Gaston, no one's throat gets my fist shoved down it like Gaston. Next task is surprisingly easier in concept when you think about it, as all you must do is murder a defenseless old man in his home. Of course, dropping the Minotaur head on him is the intended way, but while you have to unhook the thing with your hands, and therefore it could be seen as viable, I decide to forego the what-ifs and just punch him and his manservant Grom to death. Despite the yelling and crunching of bones, not once does anybody come to check to make sure if the old man is alright. This means my bonus is forfeit, but considering it was the Sufferthorn dagger, something I cannot use, I think I'll live. Up next, and it's back to the tutorial as we need to kill Mr. Racism. I'd like to avoid the guards in the sewers if I can, so I figured I could do with some help, as my sneak skill is good, but it ain't great. Well, long story short, I was gonna head on over to the Meridia Shrine and do her quest, as the ring she rewards you with gives you 30% chameleon, making it substantially easier to get around undetected. Well, as it turns out, the level requirement for the quest was higher than I remembered, so that was a bust. The trip down here wasn't entirely pointless, mind you. You know what's just a little west of this shrine? Miss Cargan. So I figured I'm here now, it couldn't hurt to quickly run through and grab the Great Wilkenstone. The goblins, zombies, and skeletons are all scaled with you, so this is no more difficult than it would be should I come here sooner or later. The skeletons all fell to a single 4-hit combo, and the goblins barely even survived for that long. And just like my previous Iliad adventures, I'm able to grab a lot of loot, so better punching, here we come. It's not long before I get the stone, and the king appears in an attempt to take it back. Unfortunately for him, I'm either stun-locking him to hell and back, or he is simply missing with his spells when I am this close, as in our rather brief confrontation, he never manages to land a single hit on me. His staff will fetch a nice price with Rowley, but even better is that in a cask behind him, I find a ring that boosts my strength by 8 points. Strength damage caps at 100 from what I know, so this won't be a permanent upgrade, but seeing as I'm only level 7 and have yet to even get close to maxing out the stat, I'd say this is a rather great find. Alright, I may not have that semi-invisibility ring, but I still wanted to try my hand at getting to Dreth. The journey back through the sewers is a tad longer than the escape, what with one of the doors being blocked off, but seeing how all we have to contend with down here is rats and mud crabs, I think we'll be just fine. Making back to where the Emperor was gifted a new breathing hole, I patiently wait around for the 2 guards to stop yapping so I can sneak on by. And it seems I was giving this whole section more credit than it's worth. The Nord guardsman goes into a room where I don't even need to worry about him, whereas the red guard just goes and stares at this wall for some reason. I'm not gonna complain as it allows me to slip by unseen. As for the high elf, well, I just stay in the shadows as close as I can to this wall so he never sees me while he's on patrol. After this, only 1 guard remains, and it's the one speaking with our target. Simply just wait till they finish berating each other, and the guard will head back upstairs and never return. I then go and grab the key on the nearby table, unlock the cell, and quickly break Valen Dreth's frail body with a few well-placed strikes. As I was never spotted, I can then simply leave the same way the guard did, and travel back to the sanctuary where I am showered in gold and given the scales of pitiless justice, which is even more buffs to my strength among other things. Next up is the curious case of Francois Mautieri. We will keep this brief. I cannot use the blade I have been provided to fake kill him, so I overperform by just killing him and the enforcer for real. Vicente isn't best pleased about the ordeal, and I fail the quest. I do so successfully, however, as I am still permitted to move on to Achievas quests. The first of which is to murder a skooma addict. Truly a worthy foe. Remaster or not, I have played this game before, so I already know exactly where I need to kill him, so I saunter over to the abandoned house, wait till he arrives, and then I ram my fist so far up his ass he is now considered a puppet. For a job well done, I am given a bow that I will soon turn into gold, along with the task of poisoning an already dying warlord. Can't do that, obviously, but for what it's worth, I do leave everybody else alive as I silently skulk my way over to Roderick, only to deliver a punch so strong, he immediately rolls out of bed and stops hogging all of the blankets. Next up is Whodunit, you know, what is widely considered to be one of the top 5 best quests in the game, if not the Elder Scrolls franchise. Well, there wasn't much persuasion tomfoolery this time around, mainly because my score was too low to get them all to confide in me, and I was being stubborn and wouldn't hand over any of my money for bribes. I did manage to befriend Devesi though. I was going to try and convince the old woman to check the basement, but as luck would have it, she was out of sight when making her way up the stairs, so I just broke her there without anybody realising. This then caused the trained ex-soldier to do what else but go for a nap. I promptly made the most of that situation as well. 2 down, 3 to go, and for a brief moment it was looking a little difficult as they were all just sticking together around the dining area. I was about to congratulate them on being the smartest group of survivors in a horror movie-esque scenario. That was until Devesi went up and Primo went down. Dealt with Primo first, because thanks to befriending Devesi, I was able to convince her that Nails was the killer, so she very quickly rushed down and dealt with him. That left her as the only one left standing, until I promptly snuffed her out too. Final contract for Ochiva now, and it's Adamus Filda. Good thing about this one is you can get the bonus by just tearing off his finger and tossing it in his replacement desk. Even outside his armor, I lack the ability to one-shot him even with a sneak attack. I could just fight him, but as I didn't wish to contend with the entire Leowin police force, I opted for a little cheese instead. And I am not talking about the 6 wheels still on my person. Philida is treading water in the shallow end of the pool, so I am just about able to hit him from stealth for the 3x bonus. He then will attempt to arrest me, but as it is only an assault charge, I can easily pay off the 40 gold fine. This teleports me to the castle, which is like 10 feet away, meaning I can just walk back and repeat this process ad nauseum until Philida is dead, as he never heals between each time I am sent away. Of course, once I do finally land that killing blow and gnaw off his finger like Gollum, I am now charged with murder, so I must book it out of town as fast as my little kitten legs can carry me. I begin heading north to the Imperial City, determined to run the whole way on foot if need be, seeing how I cannot fast travel with the guards in hot pursuit. As I pass by the Amelian tomb, I figured I could use it to lay low, plus I could get the unique set of light armor hidden within. Upon entering the cave, I am almost immediately attacked by Adamus Filda's bodyguard. Seems he was the only one who never gave up the chase. This is good, as I can easily beat him in one-on-one combat. With him gone, I could fast travel again at my leisure, but like I said, I may as well go and grab this armor set now while I'm here. As you'd expect, like many caves in Oblivion, all I have to deal with is some zombies and skeletons, so not much in the way of a challenge. Takes a little bit to find the whole suit, as it's scattered in some of the most random parts of the cave. It's technically meant to be part of a Fighters Guild quest where you give it to Amelian's descendant so you can pay off a debt. I feel like most people, myself included, just give the woman the 1000 gold and then go and keep the armor for yourself. Speaking of, as you can see, the set visually is just ebony, only it's more of a teal colour instead of black. It's also a light armor set, like I mentioned. Not the best set, but it'll probably do me for a little while. If for nothing else, it adds more protection than my shrouded set. The cuirass is the only part that's enchanted, funny enough, with a 6% frost shield at that, so should I get the chance, I could enchant the rest of the set if needed. There's a sword and shield as well, but they're only going to get sold the instant I get back to the city. I also deposit the finger while I'm there for good measure. The bonus this time is just more money, but honestly I need every bit I can get, as these lessons are getting expensive, especially now that Rakanar can't train me anymore, and I need to go and see the advanced trainer in Bruma from now on. But that can wait. Right now I have a special summons from Lucian. For once, I don't use the shortcut straight to him in the hollowed out tree, but rather make my way through the fort. Nothing spectacular, it's pretty standard, the only real difference being that instead of normal skeletons, it's Dark Guardians. So, skeletons with some decency to cover up a bit. After grinding them into bone dust, I meet with the man himself, and get told it's time to purge the sanctuary. Fun times. There is no subtlety in this, I don't even bother trying to be stealthy. I just walk in my new armor set, and start swinging. Talandril, always one to be difficult, is down in Leowin at the time of the massacre, so I need to make a quick detour back there to just beat her up in the streets. Like always, the guards seemingly don't have a stake in this fight and just leave us be. I then return to Lachance to get promoted to Silencer, and can now start the dead drops. Can't imagine I'll spend much time going over these, as they are rather straightforward and not particularly unique, bar like 3. Granted, it's for storytelling reasons, but still. Before cracking through those, however, I sell all the loot I got from my assassin friends, and then take those funds to start paying for lessons at the Master Puncher. I had to run through a quick test first, which was just simply hitting him until he said stop, just to make sure that I was worth training. He got a little jealous of my powerful punching prowess and ended up calling the guards and getting me booked with assault charges, but don't worry, we're all good in the end. He still offered to train me after the fact. At 74 hand to hand, I went back to the arena to give it a whirl. Now, either I'm doing far more damage than I'm aware, or trolls are really weak in the remaster, and honestly, I'm leaning more towards the latter. That said, the goblins don't pose much of a threat either. Anyway, back on track, I make my way over to Hero Hill and get my first dead drop, which is to hunt down and kill a Necromancer who is about to turn himself into a Lich. The trick to this quest is you can sneak up behind him and swipe the object from his person that he's using to transfer his soul into for the Lichification process. Doing so will instantly kill him. That's technically not hand to hand though, so instead I just opt for a more simple approach. That being breaking his nose in multiple places until he decides to transfer his soul to the afterlife instead. Next up, all 5 members of the Draconis family. I start with the mother, who's asleep in her farm near Bruma. Doing so gets us a gift list for her kids, easily pointing us in their direction. I start with the daughter, who lives in the cave because she lives in a cave, and therefore I don't need to worry about any witnesses, lest the nearby bear decides to report a crime. Next was Matthias in the Imperial City. I just snuck into his house and killed him there. He called for the aid of the guards, but they couldn't save him. Oddly enough, they don't really seem to care all that much, as the fine is only 40 gold. So I pay it, and go on my way back to Leyawen again, this time to deal with daughter number 2, who is actually a member of the guard herself. I can actually goad her into attacking me in one of the town's inns. Now, I'm not sure if it's because she was in a separate loading zone, or because she attacked me first and I was technically just defending myself, but the rest of the guards never came after me. Meaning, all that was left was the final son, who owned a nearby inn out in the ass end of nowhere. Turns out I may not have gotten away with the murders scot-free after all, as once I set foot in the establishment, a Legion soldier who just so happened to be here tries to arrest me. I resist, quickly rush on over and beat down the son, before then turning my attention back to the soldier as to leave no witnesses. He's definitely one of the tougher foes I've had to fight thus far, able to inflict serious damage on me in just a few swings, plus being rather tanky in his own right. Sadly for him, I just kite him in circles around the bar stand and let him use up his stamina. All the while, mine is slowly refilling, allowing me to then follow up with a few punches to wind him. I repeat this for about 30 seconds until he just can't take it anymore. On my way to dead drop number 3, and I just give in and pay the 2,000 gold fine, as I cannot be bothered with the constant threat of the guards. This is also the part where the dead drops start becoming rather stale. They all just have you go to a location and beat up a person, almost all of which have nothing too special about them. Maybe they're in a cave or out in the mountains or in their house. But there's no real unique way to deal with them. The sole exception being the Dark Elf Ivani, as he travels around, constantly making him hard to pin down without consulting his schedule. He is also meant to be a master of destruction magic, so it is heavily suggested you make use of his allergic reaction to honey by having him drink some mead so that you can then take him out while he's weak. Now, that is all well and good, but you see, the stars aligned for me when I picked up his dead drop at the abandoned fort, because right at that very moment, he just so happened to be travelling along the road less than 1,000 feet away. So I just ran as fast as I could to intercept him and take him down out here in the wilderness to once again avoid any witnesses. Well, there was a nearby highwayman, but he was promptly dealt with too. This then culminates with you just absolutely decimating a rather weak wood elf in the town of Breville, only for losing the chance to reappear, deliver some great voice acting, before revealing to you that after you killed the innocent Draconis family, you have been systematically killing off the rest of the Dark Brotherhood, as someone has been swapping out your real dead drops for fake ones. Wanting to get to the bottom of this, you're then sent to your next dead drop, only to catch this guy in the act of switching them out. Well, that was convenient. He points you towards the lighthouse, where you learn this is where the traitor has been staying, and that he also has a vendetta against Lucian specifically after he murdered the traitor's mother at a young age. You can even take said mother's head from the nearby makeshift altar. Returning to Lucian with this info, and we are too late, as the rest of the Brotherhood have already brutally murdered him. It's a shocking scene that is immediately less so once I find out that his strung up body is in fact a physics object with which I can grab and toss around the cabin. I also started waving the severed head in the face of this guy, who is the real traitor. I feel like this is made rather apparent by just talking to him, as you can find out how much joy he took in LeChance's death. All that's left to do now is head with the other members to the Night Mother's tomb to appoint a new listener. This takes much longer than expected, as my game soft-locked 3 times here, as Arquin is just far too distracted by something in the nearby bushes. Long story short, I fixed this issue by just punching her in the face before we leave. I don't know why it worked, but it did. In the tomb, the traitor is finally revealed, in which he kills the other 2 unimportant Dark Brotherhood members in a scene that reminds me a little too much of when Darth Sidious stabbed those 2 random Jedi Masters with Kit Fisto and Mace Windu. He is then promptly dealt with, and as I am the literal only competent member of this family left, I am made the new leader. I then raid the Night Mother's tomb for supplies, the best of which was a shield with a shield enchantment. Not just for how funny that is, but because even though you cannot hold a shield in your offhand while punching, you can still get its magical benefits if it's equipped. So in other words, I just got some more added defense. Everything else I just sell and put into a few more lessons to get me to 87 hand to hand and an overall level of 11. Now that I'm past level 10, I figured I could go back and do that quest for Meridia. You know, help get ahead on the main quest even more. After presenting her with some goo, she tells me to make my way over to the Howling Cave and kill a band of Necromancers. It's very vanilla for a Deadric quest, and remarkably similar to Azura's, just replace Necromancers with vampires. But whatever, it's easy to do, and one I haven't shown off before in a video. On my way over, I noticed the icon on the map informing me of a nearby Oblivion gate. Turns out it's just a glitch as they can't spawn in yet, nor was there one. But there was something a tad ominous about the game calling this shrine to one of the 9 divines a gate to Oblivion. Anyway, into the cave, and the first room isn't so bad. None of the Necromancers here, just some rats, crabs, and a handful of ghosts I can thankfully punch, since that is something you can just do once you train your hand-to-hand skill enough. In the room with the Necromancers, and I just get absolutely dogpiled by the lot of them, along with a few zombies roaming around and their own summons. They also have spells that drain fatigue, so I am getting stunned and knocked around constantly. This is also what I was talking about earlier when I mentioned you can still knock people down by draining their fatigue with spells. Needless to say, they get the best of me and I die. I throw myself at them again immediately, this time trying to hard focus one of them at a time. It kinda works, but once more I am quickly overwhelmed by just the sheer number of them. They also keep healing themselves, which is probably one of the main reasons I am not able to kill them fast enough. After a few failed attempts, I try targeting one and whittling them down as much as possible, or just outright finishing them if I get the chance. Once I do, I then make a tactical retreat out the door we came in from. This works just how I thought it would, as it seems they cannot leave that zone. So I can safely repair my gear, wait an hour to heal up, and then run back in to go again. So my plan from here was to go in, take out some of the weaker enemies, fall back, heal, then come back and start slowly picking off the Necromancers one by one until I can finish my quest. It's honestly not as tedious as it sounds, as after I've taken down about 2 of them, the final few don't have the strength in numbers anymore to effectively keep me stun locked, so I can just tank their blows until the last of them falls. With a job well done, I return to the shrine and receive my reward. While it would be fitting to wear given it's named after my guy's race, I don't like the idea of my fists being mostly invisible for the rest of the run, simply don't think it would look great for the video. So it's gonna just sit comfortably in my back pocket until it is required for the ritual. By selling the loot from the cave along with the black band I'd received from the Dark Brotherhood so long ago, I can afford enough lessons to push myself to 95 in hand to hand. The plan now was to of course head back to the arena and watch Branwith and Sealith for the last 5 levels. Only that did not work. Now I know the training method like this still works, as I've done it myself in the remaster as well as seeing other people do it. Is there maybe a limit on what level your hand to hand has to be at for this to work? I thought maybe they just couldn't progress it to 100, so I loaded back to before those lessons when I was at around 90, but that still wouldn't cause the training message to pop. After trying this for much longer than I probably should have, I just gave in and went about getting enough cash to pay for the last 5 levels. The first easy money I got was from taking the amulet to Joffrey. He doesn't tip you for the delivery, but by asking for assistance I can take all the gear in the nearby chest and sell it. I figured a few side quests also couldn't hurt. I specifically chose to do a brush with death, not just because it's one of my favourite side quests, but the magical apron he gives you at the end can be sold enough on its own to fund a single lesson. I also just wanted to show off what I thought was a nice touch in the remaster. See, in the original, the badly painted trolls were very similar to the trolls you find in the game, only they had worse textures and slightly different colouring. Whereas in the remaster, the badly painted trolls are now designed to look like the trolls from the original, whereas the trolls we find out and about have been made to look more in line with the dark-haired ones from Skyrim. I just thought that was cute. Also, I've seen people saying the trolls don't have 3 eyes anymore. The third eye is just very thin and vertical, it's just a bit difficult to see. There's also a filter over the game while you're inside the painting to give it a more unique look, as well as it just being very vivid in its colour palette. I was close to being able to afford the final lesson, so I made my way to fight Umbra as I figured selling her armour would be more than enough to push me over the threshold. Well, even though I am nearly a master of CQC, I still don't stand a chance of taking her down in a duel. In my defence, this is due to the fact that she seemingly cannot be disarmed, so there is no way for me to attempt to even the playing field. No matter, this is Umbra we're talking about after all, there's like 101 ways to cheese this fight to get the sword early without even having to lift a finger. I decided to just run in circles around the pitfall trap at the start of the dungeon until she couldn't take it anymore. I know the easy method is to just take her back to the Imperial City and have the guards do the work, but I could not be bothered to make the journey, and this was much faster overall. I swiped the armour, and the sword for what it's worth, and just like I suspected, it more than covered the cost to make me a master of the fist. The final perk is your regular attacks do much more fatigue damage. On paper, that seems a tad underwhelming, but considering I was able to stagger most things already, this should make it even easier. I also got enough levels from all of these classes that I was able to level up a few times and max out my strength as well. In other words, my fists are now doing as much damage as they will physically ever be able to do, seeing how strength damage caps at 100 in Oblivion. It should be noted that currently there is actually no way to check how much damage your fists are doing. Now in the original they capped out at 15 per punch, so I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume it's the same here. I could still level up a few more times by the looks of it, but I decided to leave it for now as I wouldn't really see any benefits from it. Sure, more stamina and health are welcome, but so far not really needed. At the peak of my combat abilities, I figured now was as good a time as any to jump into the gate outside of Kvatch and really get started on the main story. Oblivion's main quest is already rather short, so I am curious how quick this is going to feel, considering I've already got a Deadric artifact and the Great Wilget Stone. Given my level, I've moved past the point of mainly fighting scamps, and instead have to mostly contend with flame atronachs and clan fears. The only real annoyance there is that clan fears reflect small amounts of physical damage back at you, so I will need to keep an eye on my health. The bonus to fatigue damage from being a master is noticeable right away. Feels like a full combo followed by a heavy attack is enough to drain just about anybody of all of their stamina and cause them to stagger, assuming it doesn't just kill them outright due to my max strength. I was a little concerned that the Dremora would hit harder, but that also turned out to be a complete non-issue. After all, if they were doing too much damage with their weapons, I could just focus on disarming them. I don't mean to exaggerate, but I honestly think it is now physically impossible for me to lose any one-on-one fights at this point. I simply just hold up my guard, and once they attack and recoil, I can either follow up with a heavy that seems like a 50-50 chance to disarm them, or a 3-hit combo that drains them of a bunch of their stamina. I then have just enough time after said combo to block their follow-up, at which point a stagger is all but guaranteed on their end. Should they make it past this point, their stamina will not fully recover, allowing me to essentially keep them on the ropes until I'm able to finish them off. With that in mind, I clear out this gate and 90% of Kvatch lickety-split. It may have been a tad overkill to also bring Martin along for the retaking of the city, but what can you do? The only part that gave me pause was when we entered the throne room and suddenly we were greeted by a bunch of Daedroth. They have a lot more health than any of the other Daedra we have fought thus far, and they certainly hit harder. But in the end, as you can see from the white flashing around their health bars, they too succumb to Claws and his ability to just rustle your jimmies. Also, not helping them is the fact that they never once had the bright idea to jump us all at the same time. If that were the case, then yeah, I'd be singing a different tune for sure. I figured one of them killed the count this time around, but no, as a matter of fact, it was a Flame Atronach. Given all the, jokes about the new Flame Atronach designs, I can't help but wince just thinking about what happened to the poor man. With the city saved, I take Martin back to the Priory, and as a bonding exercise, we start murdering Mythic Dawn together. Seemingly cannot disarm them either, makes sense as they all use bound weapons, so that presents a tiny problem. Granted, despite how cool their still completely unobtainable armour looks, it doesn't provide much in the way of protection, as I'm able to batter them senseless with little help from the backup. Maybe these ones just aren't level skilled correctly. I check the chest that one of the Mythic Dawn seemingly just rammed his fist through the top to swipe the amulet out of, before speaking with Joffrey to get some very slightly altered dialogue. The two of us then take Martin to Cloud Ruler Temple, where I perform my usual acrobatic nonsense, before being welcomed into the Blades and being sent back to the city to look for Boris. The book hunt begins when I murder a man that for all I know was just going to ask Boris for the time. I don't even think he had a time to draw his weapon. After getting the book, I head on over to the Arcane University to speak with Tarmina about the other 3 volumes. She gives me book 2, and then sends me off to the only bookstore in town for more info. I am impatient about this part of the quest, so rather than wait for Gwyneth, I swipe the book out of the shop, and then confront him after the fact so that I can shake him down for the location he was meant to meet the Mythic Dawn at for the 4th book. Naturally, it's in the sewers, so it's back to the poop streets for me and Boris. You know, I was hoping for all of the minor tweaks they made to this remaster, that one of them would have been to speed up the NPCs and the walking missions, but that does not appear to be the case. No matter, the workaround to this is to just simply let him do all the fighting, as he will charge the enemy as soon as he lays eyes on them, and that makes him cover distance much faster. When the time comes, I just let Boris meet the sponsor. Figured I could quite literally get the jump on him this way. Raven does not stand a chance against the both of us on his own, and for some reason his backup appeared to be lagging behind today. Of course, we grab the book from him, but even better is a ring that reflects physical damage. I don't need to explain why that's handy. The world's worst bodyguards then finally arrive and are dealt with just as quick as Raven. Back out to the breathable air, and it's straight to the palace grounds to get the location from the grave to the Mythic Dawn's secret clubhouse. I may have no weapons to hand over, and therefore going in undercover could be a sound strategy. That said, I am not looking to give up my armour. Truthfully, once the fighting begins and they all rush me, I don't know if I will survive without it. In other words, it's a lot of this.
paradise awaits me. I do not fear death. Only the chosen will... I do not...
I didn't spend all that time and money becoming the best unarmed specialist in the land and then just not use them at every opportunity. After grabbing the book, I finish off the Dauntlets who weren't fighting back. I don't feel too bad about this, as they had more than enough opportunities to jump into the rescue of their master here, but just refused. I return the book to Martin, he blows out my eardrums, I take a relaxing break by the fire, and then head to deal with the spies in Bruma. Punch, 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 and punch. Next up would be me typically hunting down a Deadric artifact, but since we've already done that, it's on to the Bruma gate. Right away, me, Bird, and the backup start easily cutting a path through the Daedra. I start taking pot shots that begin adding up over time as I can't wait out here, and the situation seems a little dire. Fortunately, the safest place to rest was seemingly right inside the main tower. This also heals up the entire squad for what it's worth, so we are back to killing again in no time. It's always strange to me that the gate assault is designed this way. Like, it's more straightforward than the Kvatch gate, and you also have 3 people with you for backup, one of which is immortal. It just seems odd to have it be this much easier than any other gate you may have entered prior. As it stands, it's not long before I swipe yet another sigil stone and hide it somewhere on my person. This one has a very basic health enchantment, so I just slap it onto a piece of the Amelian set. It's not much, but 25 extra health is 25 extra health. Back at Cloud Ruler, and things are getting weird. By which I mean the Great Wilkid and Great Sigil Stones are just floating in the main hall. Is this because I went and grabbed the Wilkid Stone early? It hasn't glitched anything seemingly, as Martin still sends me off to Sanguitor to fetch the armour of Tiber Septim. The reanimated skeletal remains of the former blades are straightforward enough. Seeing how you can disarm skeletons just like you can any other humanoid enemies, my same game plan that I've been using up until now continues to shine. Truthfully, the most annoying part of Sanguitor was the Wraiths. Their damage over time spells lay on the pain more than I thought they would, plus they really like to drain my strength at almost every turn, so I had to slow walk around a good part of the earlier sections. I could have dropped some stuff, sure, but there wasn't much that I would consider junk in my inventory. Most of it was needed, or I wanted to sell. Either way, they are manageable, so after I'm finished ghost busting and bone breaking, I can retrieve the armour and immediately complete the next 2 main quests, again thanks to already having the Great Wilkid Stone. This might actually be the first time I have had the stone in my possession before starting the quest, as it led to some unique dialogue with Martin that I don't think I've ever heard before.
You are a wonder. Not only the hero of Kvatch, but the master of Miskarkand as well.
It also was the beginning of just a few strange things going on with Martin. Well, first off, it's going to toss us right into the Great Gate quest now. Typically, you would have to leave to get the Wilkid Stone, and then upon your return, Martin would be in his Imperial Dragon armour. As I never left, he hasn't had time to make the outfit change. That is, until I stop talking with him, when he immediately dons 3/4 of the outfit and decides to go shirtless. Odd choice to protect oneself from fire, but I respect it. Well, he ends up tossing the chestplate on once we get to Bruma, probably so he doesn't freeze to death, but now he has changed his name to NL Martin. No clue what that stands for. Again, the game is still running fine as there doesn't seem to be any issues at the Great Gate fight. Yes, I am just rocking up with the basic militia. The aid for Bruma quest is still a pointless time waster as the militia are more than able to hold their own for the short time you have to wait till the Great Gate appears. I don't think a single Daedra attacked me personally during this whole ordeal now that I think about it. I'm guessing it's because I don't have a weapon out and they don't consider me a threat. I mean, it works well for me as it allows me to just wheel on them from behind while my allies take the brunt of it. I think the only damage I sustained was my own reflected back at me from punching all of the clan fears. As soon as the Great Gate bursts forth, I break away from the crew and rush it to get inside. For once, I have to follow the intended path and fight a majority of the Daedra on the way too. This is what I get for not focusing more on my speed and acrobatic skills, I suppose. It's fine, you're given more than enough time to get to the top of the Sigil Tower. Besides, other than that one hallway with the blade traps that drop from the ceiling, it's a rather standard romp through the Oblivion Gate. In fact, even with me killing everybody, I still had around 8 minutes to spare once I finally made it to the Sigil Stone. Taking it, and we are transported back just in time to see the siege engine perish. Also, remember how I said Martin was acting strange? Well, those type of things tend to come in threes, and this was no different. Upon my return, I saw this.
Murder! Someone's been murdered! Someone's been murdered!
Murder!
Someone's been murdered!
What's
the matter? Getting tired?
I cannot believe I just witnessed Captain Bird not only strike down Joffrey in cold blood, but also attempt to assassinate his new emperor. Truly, that man's lust for power knows no bounds. While he may have had a few new speed holes in his lower abdomen, Martin seems no worse for wear after the fact, nor does he appear to hold a grudge. He simply goes about his business, as do I, as it's off to paradise. Before jumping straight into another portal, I went and leveled up a few times to level 16. All I get is a little more health and stamina out of it, like I mentioned before, so it doesn't change much. As I have proven my fists can solve all problems, I just beat the bands of the Chosen out of Kvatch with ease. Things are a tad off in Paradise. Mainly, none of the prisoners who are supposed to get lowered into the lava are actually in their cages. Instead, they are just standing in front of them. I go along with Eldemil as per usual, and afterwards I let him tag along to watch the battle with Minecar Cameron.
Finally, a worthy opponent. Our battle will be legendary.
Dagon will walk Tamriel again.
You will not live to see the day Lord Dagon walks the earth.
A worthy foe at last. Oh, Tamriel stands. You are together. We can defeat them.
Legendary.
I would act surprised, but after 20 years I should really know by now that this final battle is always a cakewalk if you're anything but a full mage build. With the amulet in hand, we return to Martin, gift him jewellery, and after the ever anticlimactic run through 2 zones of the Imperial City and me punching in Meryn's Dagon's shins, we reach the ending where Martin reveals his Fire Dragon persona to the world, and then him and Dagon engage in a very quick duel. That, I cannot lie, is definitely one of the parts this remaster has improved upon vastly. Even just having the main theme of the game kick in as he transforms is a great addition. But with that, Dagon gets sent back to Oblivion, Martin gets stoned, and I finish the game proving yes, you can indeed beat Oblivion Remastered with only your fists. I love this remaster, if that wasn't clear by the fact that this ended up being longer than the original video. Granted, that's also because I don't do weekly uploads and therefore didn't have a time restriction, but still, I just wanted to keep playing the game. This doesn't mean I won't ever do videos on the original, nor does it mean it's better than the original. It's like having 2 cakes. They're both great in their own right. It's essentially just 2 ways to experience the same thing, and I think that's great. Hell, it's soon going to be 3 ways to experience Oblivion once Skyblivion drops later this year, which I am also excited for. I just cannot get enough of Cyrodiil, I guess. Well, next Oblivion Remastered video will be the Deadric Artifacts one that I promised a while ago when this was leaked. Probably be out near the end of the month as I have a small Fallout 3 video that I need to get to before then. It's the final installment in a 3-part series of videos I've done over the last 3 years. That said, I cannot see that being terribly long. You will understand why, I think, when that video goes live. Regardless, that's going to be the end of the challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like. If you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to run these videos out fairly frequently. My name's Nerbit, stay safe everyone, I'll see y'all in the next video.